Shalom, shalom, Israel. Can everybody hear me all right? I can get a one in the chat if y'all can hear me okay. Let's see. Make sure y'all can hear me all right. All right, the water, the water. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out at 1 West 125th Street on command of General Yohana, and we are not affiliated with any other Israelite or Christian group. Tonight, as you all can see, is the Virginia history class. I want to say Shalom Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabbat to the brothers, Yahweh Shamar Alathan by Shem Yahweh Shah to the sisters. All right, and we are going to get into a little bit of this very, very shortly. Do some quick shout outs. We got some folks in the building. All right, obviously, y'all the Dar in the building. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabbat Officer Kwasha in the building. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabbat and my rib is in the building. Yahweh Shema Shem Yahweh Shah. All right. All right. We're going to get into it. So, as y'all can see from the title, we're going to be talking about the school to prison pipeline system, uh, and some of the history associated with that, particularly prisons in general. But we're going to also get into some current events also. All right. But as we get started, right? So who can give me a quick um, synopsis of what the school to prison pipeline system is? Just a uh, quick couple words. Does not have to be a lot, just to make sure we have some context. All right. Matter of fact, give me 1 second. All right. Yeah. Who can give me a synopsis of what the idea of the school to prison pipeline is? Who wants to give that a shot? Let me get my banners up, get myself together here. There we go. All right. All right. Anybody want to get at a shot? I'm sure I'm gonna do it. All right, no sweat. For sake, time, for time's sake, a school to prison pipeline is just it's the systematic way um, that this oppressor funnels our people um, from the school system shortly into the prison system whenever they're done, and sometimes while brothers and sisters are still in the uh, the school system, they are filtered into the prison system. All right. Okay. Let's see. My rib said schools failing to have early prevention and more exposure to drugs and gangs. That is definitely part of it. That is definitely part of it. All right. Sister Nine the building. I was Shamala Thumba Shemiel Shasa. That is definitely part of it. Slocky. So yeah, the lack of early prevention, exposure to drugs, gangs, all of that is definitely part of the school to prison pipeline system, and it's not something that is accidental. So actually, I'm gonna switch this up. I was gonna save this for the end of class, towards the end of class, but I'm not gonna do that. Um, this particular story, we're gonna get into this right now. Has anyone heard recently about the Louisiana? Um, a group of Louisiana, um, Slocky. One of the no, the largest prison system in Louisiana has a group of children that have been subjected to absolute horror. Has anybody heard about that story? I believe it came out today, maybe yesterday, over the past few days. Has anyone heard about this story at all? Con, give Officer Yagadar a hand. The school's designed to get our kids ready for prison. That is absolutely part of it. Yes, absolutely. And matter of fact, let's as we're waiting on anybody to respond about whether they heard about this story, why would why would there be a concerted effort to get our children ready for prison? Why is that? What's the purpose behind that? Why is it? Why would it be? Why would there be an interest in having our children specifically um, in a situation where they are prepared and easily moved into the prison system? Okay, Sister Raya says she is not familiar with it. No sweat. We're gonna get into it. Give Sister Raya a hand. She's absolutely right. Grooming them for modern day slavery. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I call Sapar in the building. Shalom, brother. He says, one reason to kill the spirit of our children in prison is big business. Absolutely. He's absolutely right. Big business, going back to what Sister Raya said, big business, meaning modern day slavery. They are able to make a ton of money off of the backs of our people. Again, we've talked about it before as far as the 13th Amendment is concerned. That's the amendment that so-called abolished slavery. Um, it's the way it's written. If you ever go read it, it talks about slavery being abolished except for the punishment of crimes with someone who has been duly convicted. So once you are convicted in a court of law and you are sent to jail, you are now subject to absolute legal slavery. All right. Sister Rod said that's where they want us anyway. They want our youth to follow into the trap their parents fell in. That's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. So before we get into this story, what are some what are some what are some mechanisms? What are some catalysts? What are some things that our community has to deal with uh, that perpetuates that school to prison pipeline? What are some of the things that our children have to deal with, and even us? There are things that are that I say us as parents, us as adults. Um, there are things that we deal with and have to deal with and suffer from that makes this school to prison pipeline function so well. from the oppressor's perspective? Who can give me? Let's talk about some ideas. What are um, some of those things that perpetuate that system and help it function so well, so that we move so easily into the prison system? Letter people being put the alphabet community, I believe, is what she's talking about. Let me know if that's what you're talking about, unless I'm misunderstanding. When you say letter people being pushed, let me make sure I understand what you mean by that. All right. Sister also said truancy laws. Okay, there's some of that. Absolutely. All right. Officer Yakada says not knowing their identity, destruction of the man's role and function in the community and household. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, and the sister said count. All right. So let's start with Officer Yagada's answer, because that was right on time, and then we'll double back to the sister's answer. If we go to Slovakia, we go to Matthew 12 and 29. Matthew 12 and 29. Matter of fact, let me see. I can put it up there. You can put it up there. Should have had this ready already. No sweat. You know what? I'm just going to read it and I'll set up some more later. All right. Matthew 12 and 29 says, um, or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. So when it says uh, how else can one enter into a strong man's house unless he bind him up? Meaning you can't come into a strong man's house unless he is bound. You're not just going to come in and do whatever you want. You're not going to come in and take over. You have to first bind him up. You have to first bind him up, limit his power. Is another way to phrase it. You have to limit his power. And as the brother said, destruction of the man's role. That's systematic. That's very, very systematic. Who can give me some examples? I'll start y'all off. One was the welfare system. The welfare system was set up as a um, it was set up in a way that made sisters feel like, okay, well, I can get some help, I can get some benefit from the system, but or from the government. But part of the requirement was that the man not be in the home. At a time they would, and they still do this to a certain extent, but at a time it was so focused on a man not being in the house, they would do visits. They would walk around, look in closets, look under beds, look all around your home as a woman, as a so-called single woman, to make sure if you're receiving benefits that no man is in the building, no man lives there, no man is there to. Nope, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna ask y'all. So if no man is there, right? If no man is living there, if no man is well ingrained within your home and your life, what are you lacking? You may be getting benefits from the government, but what are you lacking as a woman if you don't have a man there? Shalom, how about Shana Shabakata? Shubukazaki in the building. What are you lacking as a woman if you don't have a man there? Get a sister a hand. She said leadership and guidance. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's our position. The man's position in the home in the family is to provide leadership and guidance. Guidance sometimes is hard to receive. Guidance sometimes comes in the form of chastisement, a good old checking. It just happens. All right. But that is exactly what becomes a thing that's missing when the man is taken out of the home, when a strong man is taken out of the home. We want to make sure we remember that this is not just talking about any man, it's talking about a strong man. And we're going to get into what that means in a second. Uh, Officer Yakadar said the head or order, correct. You are lacking order when you do not have a man in the home, a strong man in the home. The order is Christ above man, man above woman. That is the Most High's order for our lives and our homes. When you don't have a man in your home because you just decided to go get a check from the government, you just destroyed the hierarchy. There's one more I'm looking for, and no one said yet. But you just destroyed the hierarchy. So now you are put in a position as a woman that you should have never been in. You're not meant to lead the family. You are meant to be there and help your man as he leads the family. That's just the structure. And most women, even nowadays, if they're honest with themselves, if they're honest with themselves, they will acknowledge that that's what they would prefer. The problem is our sisters have gotten so wrapped up in this women's lib, and I don't need a man, and I'm so independent that it has become popular to say you don't need a man. It has become very popular for our sisters to say that they don't need a man in their lives, and they are at home. Listen, Officer Yagadat, matter of fact, he's in the building. Shalom. Yahabah Shem Yahshabakta. He made a comment in the class not too long ago, and he's absolutely right. He's listen, sisters will walk around and talk about how they don't need a man and they're so independent, and it sounds like a barbershop in their house every night because they don't have a man there. Let's see what else we got. All right, the sister says knowledge of what the Most High wants in our family. Absolutely, absolutely. A strong man provides that, and we're going to get into what a strong man means. All right. There's one more. There's one more that I'm surprised that none of the sisters have said yet. What is lacking when a sister does not have a man in the home? What is lacking? What is missing when a man is not ingrained in that family? Let's see who's going to be able to get this last. Well, not the last one necessarily, but definitely the one I'm thinking of. Give Sister Ra'aya protection. She is absolutely right. All right. She's absolutely right. If you don't have a man in your home and you are not in the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge where you have priests and prophets of the Lord that are over you, you are absolutely out here in the world with no protection. That's just the truth of it. So you can walk around and talk about how independent you want to be and how you don't need a man and all of that, and you have no protection for you and your children. That's the reality of it. All right. Scripture goes on. It says, matter of fact, I'm gonna start back from the top. It says, or else, it's like, or else, how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods? What are his goods in this sense? What are his goods when you enter a strong man's house to spoil his goods? What is that? Who can tell me what that is? Who wants to give it a shot? All right, give Trooper Kazaki a hand. He's absolutely right. His family is spoiled when he is bound and someone enters into his home. His family is spoiled. Now, how is his family spoiled? If he is not there or he doesn't have the power because it's been taken from him, how is his family spoiled? Give me some examples. Who wants to give it a shot? How is his family spoiled if he's bound up and his power is taken? Okay. My Rev said no example of a real man for his children. All right. Give me a little something a little more specific than that. That's not a wrong statement though. But give me something a little bit more specific. How think realistically, right? And our practically our people. How are our families, our families that are run by single mothers who are not in the truth? How are their families spoiled? Okay, you're getting closer. All right. The sister said women allowing the oppressor to come in and control them. Okay, control them how? You are definitely getting there. You are in the building. Control them how? How does the oppressor come in and control them? I think you right there. Okay, all right. Those are some good examples. Welfare, welfare, because once you allow the welfare system to remove the man from the home, now they are essentially controlling what goes on in there. Child support. Now that you have removed the man and put him on child support, now you have removed, as the sister said, the example of what a strong man should be. So now who do they look to? Any and everything else. WIC, home visits is a great one. Home visits are one of them things. If y'all don't know, and the only reason I do, to be perfectly honest, is because my rib is in child care, and she used to work at one point for a Head Start program. And the Head Start program, they are allowed while they provide this child care and education, most often at virtually no cost. By part of the requirement for that is for them to come in and do home visits. We talked about it a few classes ago when we talked about the foster care system, where when you open yourself up to receive some of these quote unquote benefits, you open yourself up for this oppressor to become very, very intrusive and come into your home and look around. And then what she used, there's a term that she always often tells me, that they are oftentimes they're called mandated reporters. So if they see something, they got to say something. Now, what they see, that might not be that big a deal. But we open ourselves up by receiving these so-called benefits, and then what can happen? You can take your control completely away, and in worst case scenario, you may be in a situation where, since you might lose your children altogether. And then this control that you felt like you had is really going to be gone. All right. So she's absolutely right. Here you go. There she goes. Give her a hand. She was right on it. CPS claiming neglect and pushing kids into foster care. That's how those things can happen. All right. Uh, Officer Yagadar says children spend more time influenced by social media, television, and music. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's absolutely right. Listen, this social media thing, it is the worst. It is the absolute worst. I feel like sometimes I feel like you should have to pass an IQ test or something before you even get on. At least that might help you alleviate, protect some of these folks because some people just don't need a voice like that, and everyone has one to spew all manner of absolute nonsense, and then somebody's gonna like it. It's horrible, and then there's all these trends. Listen, we are the most trendy people in the world. As long as somebody says, "Hey, y'all should do this," and put challenge on the end of it, then all of a sudden it becomes something to do. I don't know if I've said this before, but yeah, who remembers the what was it, the ASL challenge, ALS challenge? Who remembers that? Somebody tell me kind of who remembers that real quick? I'm a sidebar real quick. Who remembers the ALS challenge? I think it was, or the ice bucket challenge. That was the other thing they called it, the ice bucket challenge. Kind of who remembers that? Okay, my rib said Khan. All right. Anybody else? Kind of who remembers the ice bucket challenge? I remember when everybody was online, online, sitting, outside somewhere, getting ice cold water dumped on them. All right, Officer Yakada said, "Khan." Right, right. Since Ryan said everybody getting dumped with ice with no follow up. So this is what was interesting early on to me. I was because this is what I'm listening to people say they call. Remember, the process was somebody would do the ice, the ice bucket challenge. They get dumped with the ice water, and then they would call you out. And if you didn't do it, you had to donate to the foundation. So it was either donate to the foundation or get some ice dumped on you. Right, the crate challenge is another one. I done seen the crate challenge. People be almost breaking their neck trying to run to the top of a crate mountain for nothing. At least, so like at least with the ALS, ASL, whatever the thing was, at least it had an idea that it was like for a cause. But what used to always get me was, well, if everybody do the ice bucket challenge, then the cause still ain't getting no money. And who's checking this anyway? It was just something to do. That's all it was. Just like the crate challenge. Absolutely. Planking. Planking was another thing. Everybody was planking at one point. And it's like, what? Listen, and we're the absolute worst with it. We get a challenge and we run with it like it absolutely means something. Like it absolutely means something. So when the brother says social media, he is absolutely right. Social media is one of the worst things for our people because all we do is follow trends and challenges. We don't follow the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. But if somebody puts it on social media and says it's a challenge, oh, we flock to it. All right, let's keep. Let me see some more. Sister I said, streets raising the kids in ignorance and no strong man to correct them. Give her an absolute hand. She's absolutely right. When there's no strong man, then you allow the streets to raise your child, especially young boys. When there's no strong man in their life, then you essentially open them up to any and all influences, especially when they see something that they perceive to be a strong man, because that's what we gravitate to as young men. That's absolutely the case. All right. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. He said emotions become more important than logic. Mommy says Mommy says the child will feel bad with no Christmas. Daddy says it's fake and a lie. Absolutely. Give him a hand. Where I was going when the sister said earlier that we allow, the oppressor to raise our children and control, we give the control over to the oppressor. These holidays are one of the main things I was thinking about. That's why our community is so wrapped up, and it's so difficult the longer it goes on to get away from these things. And it's an emotional tie to Officer Yagadar's point. Our ladies, our women, our sisters have this so many of them in the world have this emotional tie to all these holidays because it's a chasing of happiness. It's a chasing of happiness. We all know that sisters are more emotional. They're made up that way. And so there's this, some of our sisters are so destroyed. There's this never-ending quest for happiness. There's a never-ending quest for happiness, and that can be, the destruction of our people. Life is about, as Captain Nakazaki Shah says all the time, life is about warfare. Life is about following these laws, statutes, and commandments for us. The rest of these nations, you can do all manner of wickedness that you want. That's on y'all. For us, we need to be following these laws, statutes, and commandments, and not chasing down happiness, but being solid in our following and our love of the Most High, which we would be showing if we follow the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. All right. Let me see. Officer Yagadar says, Mommy says real men wear pink and love Jesus. Come on. That's exactly what you think. Daddy's punch you in your chest for bent wrists and hands on your hips. Right. Right. We listen, strong men raise strong men. Strong men raise strong men. And I keep saying that specifically for a reason, because we're going to get into what strong men are. All right. Everyone getting done. Well, okay. So, like, you're just catching up with the comments. The water for y'all to participate. Absolutely. Officer Yagadar says the challenges remind me of always saying, if everyone jumped off a cliff, would you jump off too? Right. That's what they used to tell us when we was young. Well, why'd you do such and such? Well, Tony did it. Well, Tony jump off a cliff, you gonna jump off behind him? And as a child, you immediately go, well, no, because that doesn't make sense. But now we got a whole generation of adults who don't even think about it. Like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. They doing it, so that's what I'm gonna do. The concept, he goes on, he says, the concept of being a leader has been destroyed with no man in the house leading. Exactly. Exactly. All right. And then my rib says we confuse nurturing with spoiling our youth. Absolutely. We think, listen, one of the things, and this is, we got different generations in the class, and I understand that, right? But one of the things, at least my generation, um, that we're just notorious for saying it. And you can talk to people, you can talk to, people in the world, friends, family, whatever. And consistently you will hear, I just want my child to have, more than what I did, better than what I did, so on and so forth. But so often it's not about virtually anything other than some type of materialistic thing. It's some type of, you want your child to have more shoes than you had. You want your child to have more designer clothes than you had. That's really so often what our people are saying. It has nothing to do with sound raising, because most often, especially if you had, you had the benefit of having a two-parent home where there was a man, a mother and father there. Most often, most of us, don't be like, well, my parents were terrible. Most people don't say that. Now it happens. Don't get me wrong. It happens. And as we know, as we grow up, our parents are not, they missed the mark because most of us didn't come up in the truth. Most of us were not told what the truth of the Bible were. They didn't know. They were ignorant, but that was something that they could have done better. So that whole, you want your child to have better than you. Well, give your child the truth of the law, statutes, and commandments, the truth of who they are, as Officer Yagadar said earlier. Give them their identity. Give them a moral compass that goes past what they feel at the time. Don't give them the past to just whatever you feel you should do. Don't give your daughters the pass to go sleep with everybody on the block. Don't give your sons the pass to go sleep with every woman and then throw her away. But we don't do that as a whole. What we do is, when we're talking, we want them to have better than we did. It's just about materialism. We want to make sure they have a bigger house than we grew up in, have more snacks and more junk food. It's stuff like that, and it's like that's not what we should be trying to do better at. All right, this is right hand. Let them have the truth that we didn't get. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we keep saying, and I've told you I've been saying it purposefully. A strong man is what's needed in the house. That scripture referenced a strong man. So who can tell me what a strong man is? Who can tell me who can describe a strong man? She said I took her statement. I still read it. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat. What is a strong man? Who can tell me what a strong man is? Who can give me some descriptions? What some adjectives of a strong man? Are we talking about physically strong? I'm gonna give y'all. I don't want anybody to say it. So no, that's not what we're talking about. All right, just so we're clear. I don't want y'all to be like somebody who lifts weights. No, it's not what we're talking about. What does it mean to be a strong man? All right, sister said a man in the truth and teaching it. All right, give her a hand. Anybody else? What's some more? What's some more characteristics of what a strong man is? All right, Officer Yagadar. He said a strong man follows the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments and teaches his family to do so. Absolutely. Give him a hand. Trooper Kazakia. He said able to resist temptation. All right. All right. Con. Definitely. Because in order to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, we have to be able to resist temptation. Right? We have to be able to resist eating that pork sandwich. We have to be able to resist going along maybe with our woman because she wants to celebrate Christmas. She wants that baby to have Christmas. She wants that baby to have his first birthday party, which we all know nobody ever remembers. All right. And even if they did, we wouldn't do it because of the Most High. But it's just that much worse because none of it has anything to do with the child. We are, especially in our communities. Listen, that first birthday party that everybody in the world has, that is for the adults. That is absolutely for the adults. That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with the child. Sure, you're gonna bring the cake that's on fire in front of the kid, and everybody's gonna start yelling and singing that song, right? At 12 months old, the kid is halfway, petrified. But the rest of that maybe is the only time. Of course, you're gonna open, they're gonna open them gifts. That's about the only time, man. You got about 15 minutes that is for that kid. Outside of that, that is for the adults. Every when I was in the world, every first birthday party I went to was a big cookout for the adults. They had nothing to do with them kids, and we all know nobody. Them kids don't remember it anyway. But you have to be able to resist temptation to tell your woman, as a strong man, no, we're not going to do that because the Most High says we can't. That is resisting temptation. He is absolutely right. You have to be honorable. Absolutely. Providers. Providers meaning that this doesn't mean, I just want to be clear. It does not mean that this man has to be the breadwinner in the home. Because that's, a lot of times our sisters in the world think that in order to be a provider, that means you pay all the bills. And that's not what it means to be a provider. You can provide protection, you provide guidance. There are different things that a strong man provides. I just want to be clear that it's not necessarily about finances. All right, but that's not a wrong answer from the sister. Okay. Um, Protector and strength, emotionally and mentally, absolutely. I would agree with that. All right. So let's go to. There's one word that no one said yet, but that's okay. It kind of I think it all is encompassing in what everybody said. So we're gonna pull it up. It's Proverbs 24:5. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up over here. We got on time. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. He be on it with me. Boy. Wise. That is exactly what we should be. That is exactly what a strong man is. All right. Proverbs 24:5. Make sure I got my stuff together here. Let's see. I think I want it more like that. Okay, there we go. Can y'all see that all right? Give me a one if y'all can see that okay. Or do I need to make matter of fact, if I need to make it larger, y'all just let me know. All right. Um this is Proverbs 24:5. It says, a wise man is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. What is the knowledge here? What is that knowledge? A wise man is strong, and yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. What is that knowledge? What does it mean by knowledge right there? A man of knowledge increaseth strength. Who wants to give it a shot? Okay. Triple Kazaki said, knowledge of the Most High. Give me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more than that. You on the right track though. Give me a little bit more than that. What does it mean to have knowledge of the Most High? All right. I see your answer. Sister Rai. I'm just gonna give Triple Kazaki a couple more minutes. I think he's right there. What does it mean to have knowledge of the Most High? Let's see. I'll give it a shot, bro. There it is. There you go. Yeah, brother, a hand. Knowledge and keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. We're gonna go a little bit further in a second, though. Sister Raya said knowledge, no, so like in knowing the truth and enforcing the law, statutes, and commandments. I would say teaching, right? But one of the things that we say, right, that if you, I don't want to get it to you. Well, we say it all the time. You are not in the ISUPK. You are not in the truth, right? So a strong man is in the truth. So if you are not in the ISUPK, you may have a knowledge of keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. And this is not saying either of y'all answers are wrong. because y'all are definitely on the right track. But we have to be clear. The internet ISUPK is we're the home of the truth. We are in the truth. If you are not in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, you're just not in the truth. So you cannot be a wise man. You cannot be a man of knowledge that increaseth his strength because you are not learning in the right place. You are not learning from the priests and prophets that the Lord set up. So you cannot increase your strength if you are not in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. All right, but you are right. You both are right that being in the truth gives you the knowledge of the Most High. It gives you the law, statutes, and commandments. And we teach how to keep them. We teach the resistance to temptation. We teach brothers how to be strong in this truth. All right. Okay, I will take that also. Continuing to search for knowledge from other wise men. Exactly. Who are other the officers and captains and generals in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Absolutely. All right. Now, how do we know? How do we know? What's the like I said, how do we know? Who can give me the precept for this scripture? A wise man is strong. Who can give me the precept for the fact that following the law, statutes, and commandments is the wisdom? The law is our wisdom. Who can give me that? Who wants to give it a shot? Okay. Okay. Who wants to give it a shot? How can you prove that having knowledge of the law, statutes, and commandments is your wisdom? Oh, see, I can tell. Wow. God, God, I ain't trying to step on your toes. I ain't trying to step on your toes. You see, this one came a Tuesday night special. Salaki, I ain't trying to step on your toes, bro. All right, for time's sake, I will give it to y'all. All right. We go to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. Damn right. He said it's so deep, I always have to put it. Damn right. Yeah, right. Deuteronomy 4 and 6. Absolutely. Give that brother a hand. He is absolutely right. I'm gonna start at verse 5. All right. Uh, but he is absolutely right. This is a heavy scripture. Now this is Moses talking to the people. It says, "Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments. They have been taught by priest and prophet of the Most High, Moses. Even as the Most High, my power commanded me." Moses took commandments from the Most High. He said, "Teach the people these laws and statutes, right? That ye should do them, Salaki, that you should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it." Meaning, I'm teaching you these laws. But they're out here. Hey, I'm teaching you these laws. The Most High gave them to me. We need to make sure we do them when we get to this to the promised land. All right. Verse 6 says, "Keep therefore and do them. Keep them, do them, observe them, practice them." Don't just learn this and say you know it and don't actually put it into practice, right? Why? For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. This is how we get the respect of the other nations, by following these laws, statutes, and commandments. This is how the other nations then know, oh, these people are wise. Look at these laws that they have in place, not only to deal with each other, but to deal with other people, to deal with other nations. Look how they have laws to make sure that brothers don't sleep with other brothers' wives. Look how they have laws to make sure that brothers deal with each other upright when it comes to business. Look how they have laws that prefers themselves to each other. Meaning there are certain things that I think if an animal died of itself, I cannot sell that to a brother. I can sell it to a stranger. I can sell it to another nation. There are laws in place for that. There are laws in place where we look out for the impoverished of the nation. If you have a harvest, you can't take all of that harvest. You can't reap all of your harvest to sell it all. No, you have to leave some of that. Why? So that the poor in the nation can just go and eat and partake. So they will be taken care of. That's wisdom. The society we live in now, this wicked kingdom we live in now, is all about capitalism. You look out for you, and I hope you get yours. And most of the time, they don't hope you get yours. They just looking to get theirs. That's the world we live in today. But in our world, the world of Israel, when we're keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, it would be our wisdom and understanding in the sight of the other nations. They would understand that we are wise and we take care of each other. They would understand that we come together. They would understand that we prefer us over everyone. Let's keep going. It says, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. That's what they would say. If we, not just to know the law, if we were following the law, the example we will be setting, the clear display of wisdom that this is what we're doing because our power, the Most High, our power, gave us these law, statutes, and commandments, which give us the wisdom. All right. Let's see. Earlier on, let me see. We talked about that. Earlier on, one of the brothers, I believe it was Officer Yagadon. Again, we're going back to the prison to school to prison pipeline. We talked about the idea that not knowing our identity is one of the things that is so detrimental and destroys our people so much. And the reason it destroys our people so much is that we don't know who we are. So we can't follow the culture that we're supposed to be following, which is why we are out here teaching these classes, going to camp, going out to the street corners, trying to wake our folks up. Because the reality is not knowing who we are gives us no um, perspective on why we're in the situation we're in, why our communities are so destroyed, why our people as a whole are so destroyed, right? And so, not knowing these laws, statutes, and commandments puts us in a position, not knowing who we are as the 12 tribes of Israel, puts us in a position where we start joining other nations. And we've covered it several times that the Most High told us not to do that. We are supposed to be a holy people, which means to be set apart. We are supposed to be set apart. We are supposed to be the ones, only ones, following these laws, statutes, and commandments. As the scriptures say, the Lord has not dealt so with any other nation. He didn't give these scripture, law, statutes, and commandments to anyone else. These were ours, and they were meant to be our power, our wisdom. So, not knowing our identity and not knowing who we are puts us on a school to prison pipeline because we then want to do everything that the world is doing. We want to conduct ourselves how everyone else in the world is doing. We want to do everything the oppressor does. We want to do everything the alphabet community does. We want to do everything that every other nation does. Because why not? Because no one can tell me what to do. Because in these nations' eyes, no one can judge you. You should do whatever you see fit. Anything your lustful heart desires, you should do it. That's what this kingdom teaches. But what we should be being taught is the law, statutes, and commandments, our identity, and who we are. So we can have some discipline and we can follow these law, statutes, and commandments and get back under the protection of the Most High. So that's how the identity piece plays out. All right. I want to say somebody might have said poverty. And if not, I will say it. That's another way that we are set up to be in a school to prison pipeline when our homes and our communities are so destroyed and impoverished. It has an effect, right? And we're going to get into what some of those effects are. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 28 and 33. All right. Deuteronomy 28 and 33. And these are the curses, all right, that are found in Deuteronomy that that the Most High said was going to happen if we did not follow the law, statutes, and commandments. It says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. Our labor, everything we produce, the fruit of the land, everything we produce, everything we do, everything we bring to this nation, they just eat it up. They absolutely consume it. And we're left with nothing, essentially nothing. Even as we make our living to try to have our homes, what do? We end up, like I've said it before, we go to the slavery, it's like we get a little bit of change, enough to pay for our home, and then everything else at best, if you might not be owning, you might be renting, which means you're just paying for somebody else to own the building. But you might pay for where you stay. You might pay for a little bit of food. But even with all of that, what you end up doing is giving the resources right back to the oppressor. It goes right back to the oppressor. So the fruit of the land and all thy labors, the other nations eat up, whether it be our food that we need to eat, whether it be our labor that we provide, whether it be the beauty supply store, whether it be the Chinese food place that sells the chicken wing, every nation eats it up. Whether it be the East Indian spots that had a corner stores in our neighborhood. Every nation eats our labor and the fruit of our land up. The scripture goes on. It says, "And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always." That's our position. We are crushed as a whole. The vast majority of our people are oppressed and crushed by these other nations, taking the resources, eating them up, and leaving us with nothing. And the Most High said these things. They were prophesied in the Bible. The Most High said these things are going to happen if we don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. And we all know, by and large, that we don't do that, and that's why we're in the position that we're in. And that's why we're on a very efficient school to prison pipeline system. It's extremely efficient, and we're gonna get into some more of that. All right. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna get to that in a second. All right. Okay, we're gonna share some other stuff. So let me share this with y'all so we can see just how efficient. Where is it? Right. We're gonna show just how efficient this process and this system is. As soon as I find, so I can give me one second. All right, Salaki. All right. I might have to double back to that. What I was going to share, but that's no sweat. All right. I might have to double back to that. No sweat. All right. So we're going to get into my story real quick. Nope. Now what we're going to do? I'm going to share something. All right. There we go. All right. This is going to show how efficient this system is. Oh, here it is. Okay. I may not be able to see that too well. But these stats are from, I believe, 2016, October of 2016, I believe. Um, and some of this is just going to be too small for y'all to read, so I'm just going to read it. All right. It says the U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the world, and its prison and jails are overwhelmingly filled with African Americans, so-called African Americans and Latinos. The path to prison for young African Americans and Latino men are uh, are many, Salakia, but the starting point is often the school foster care systems. Okay, and this says, as y'all can see, uh, from school to prison, it says 40% of students expelled from the U.S. each year are black. All right, 70% of students involved in school arrests or referred to law enforcement are black or Latino. Black students are 3.5 times more likely to be suspended than whites. And black and Latino students are twice as likely to not graduate high school as whites. And it says now here 60% of all males, uh, 60% of all males in state and federal prison do not have high school diplomas. This is how they track us in. All right. And then we have the foster care system, which we went over a few classes ago. It says 50% of children in the foster care system are black or Latino. Foster care, 30% of foster care uh, youth entering the juvenile justice system are are placement related behavioral cases, meaning these are behavioral problems, not necessarily criminal problems, right? So these youth aren't necessarily having criminal history; they're having behavioral history, which is then causing them to enter the juvenile justice system. But this is foster care. So then you put that, as we were saying before, if the child has so-called behavioral issues, then you line it up with the parents not being able to provide some type of need, and then you say, well, the child will be better off in the foster care system, which is essentially the juvenile justice. All right. There's 25% of young people leaving foster care will be incarcerated within a few years after turning 18. And 50% of young people leaving foster care will be unemployed within a few years after turning 18. All right. So this just shows the clear evidence that this is systematic. This is not accidental. This is not this is purposeful. It says black and Latino are 61% of the incarcerated population and only 30% of the US population. This is how much we are destroyed. And this shows that these things are accidental because everybody knows it's common statistics that we commit crimes at no more higher rate than Esau does. But we're policed more so that we can be incarcerated more, so that we can be, as Trooper Carl Sapar said, groomed to be part of this big business system, which is modern day slavery. All right. Okay. So, yep, we're going to get into the story. Uh, where are you? We're going to get into this story that happened in Louisiana that was reported, um, I think it was earlier today. Yep. Right. I'm not sure if y'all can see that or not, but it says a group of incarcerated children, most of them black, spent nearly a year jailed in a former death row wing uh, of the Louisiana State Prison. Court testimony later brought to light, court testimony later brought to light concerning conditions. They were forced to stay in their cells for sometimes an entire day. One child was pepper sprayed for throwing liquid at a guard. Now, mind you, I read another article that said the liquid was the water from the toilet. I mean, these are children, right? In cells, mind you, and you pepper sprayed the kid. It says they were denied adequate education. Again, we talked about how important education is and how it can destroy, and it does destroy our people. It says Louisiana State is the country's largest adult maximum security prison. It is sometimes called Angola, the name of the old prison, a slave plantation where the new one now sent. Who's familiar with Angola? Kanala, if you're familiar with Angola. Kanala, if you've ever heard of Angola, the plantation Angola. I'm going to keep going. Y'all just let me know. Says Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards first ordered the kids moved to Angola last summer. Months, uh, months of legal battles followed. Okay, that's right. I said but wow, right, right. This is a former plantation slash prison that continues to operate as uh, uh, the largest state prison in Louisiana. Right. Obviously, y'all can better say yeah, it's definitely a shame, and it gets worse when you we're gonna get into the history of Angola. It gets absolutely worse. All right. It says now, after a year, a federal judge has intervened, ruling Friday that the kids must be moved out of the prison by September 15th. All right. There we go. Um, so for almost 10 months, children, nearly all black boys, have been held in abusive conditions of confinement at the former death row of Angola, the nation's largest adult maximum security prison. The nation's largest adult maximum security prison. David Utter, lead attorney on the case, wrote in a statement on Friday, "We are grateful to our clients and families for their bravery in speaking out and standing up against this cruelty. While the rates of U.S. youth incarceration have fallen in recent decades, declining 77% between 2000 and 2020, racial disparities persist. As of 2019, black children were 4.4 times more likely to be incarcerated compared to white children." Now, we just read a second ago, as of 2016, I think it was 3.5 times. Let me see if I can pull that back up. I believe it was 3.5 times. Now it's up to 4.4 times. All right. According to the Sentencing Project, a research and advocacy organization focused on uh, decarceration efforts. In his ruling, the judge said prison officials had violated the 14th Amendment and that the children had faced cruel and unusual punishment, according to the ACLU of Louisiana. This is going on now, not 50, 100 years ago. This is what's happening right now. The ruling came after a hearing last month revealed officials detained the children in their cells for long periods of time, used pepper spray in certain cases, and limited their access to education. I mean, how much more can you destroy a child? You leave a child locked up almost all day. You pepper spraying them. You're not educating them. You have absolutely no concern for these children. And we're going to get into some of the history as to why where we shouldn't be surprised. It says, okay. Testimony from a guard at the facility and an expert witness revealed officials held several children in their cells from anywhere between 14 and 22 hours, depending on the day. Local news station WWNO reported. State law prohibits guards from holding children in their cells for longer than 8 hours outside of sleeping hours because children need to get out and get rid of some of that energy. That don't even take, that don't even take a whole lot of science right there. You got a child locked up in a cell all day? Come on. Video footage played at the hearing also revealed a guard had used pepper spray against a child after he threw liquid from his cell toilet. There we go. According to the WWNO. Submitted testimony from the children involved in the case also indicated that their required access to education had declined since moving to the Louisiana State Penitentiary. They moved these children to the largest maximum prison in Louisiana. Now, here's the interesting part. Following the judge's ruling, the Office of Juvenile Justice said in a statement that their office has taken extraordinary measures to ensure the children maintain access to education. No, that's not what I was looking for. Oh, yes, it is. Maintain access to education and have suitable living conditions. That's their position. The Office of Juvenile Justice claims that they did everything they could to ensure, or they took extraordinary measures to ensure the children maintain access to education and had suitable living conditions. Now, this is their quote. While we disagree with the court's ruling today and will be seeking an emergency writ, we will continue to explore every option available to us to ensure the safety of staff, community members, and youth in our care. So they disagree with the judge's order to get them out of the largest maximum security prison in Louisiana. The Office of Juvenile Justice disagrees with that decision. The oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. All right. Now, where we're gonna go. So we often talk about um, the history of the police force, which is essentially slave patrols, right? We don't talk so much about the history of prisons. Okay. So as we just read, and as y'all just saw, this particular prison began as a plantation. That plantation then morphed into um, the a prison system. All right. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So I'm gonna read some highlights about the history of this place. Now, what time is it? All right. I'm gonna throw some numbers at y'all. My website, I'll be confusing when I throw these numbers at y'all, but I'm gonna throw some numbers at y'all so y'all can watch the history of this place and watch how this oppressor uh, gained his wealth on our backs over the years. All right, bear with me. All right, bear with me. Okay, so this property, right, Angola, it's made up of like a ton of acres, man. I want to say it was like 8,000 acres or something like that. Matter of fact, it was 18,000 acres initially, and then it built up over time. Okay, all right. Says in the early, it was initially acquired in the 1830s. Okay, and then it says in the early 1840s, Franklin, the owner, um, added a fourth plantation to his property. He constructed a whole power sawmill. He put 14 slave cabins up. He had a hospital, a cookhouse, an office, a storehouse. He built his own little compound, right? And by he said, and by 18, so by the 1840s, he had increased the value of this place by $20,000. All right, now that's in the 1840s. In the 1840s, a dollar was worth about $35 today. Okay, so y'all just bear with me with these numbers. I know it might get y'all caught up, but this is how this oppressor built the wealth of this country on our back. That $20,000 is about $700,000 today. All right, and he built that up on this property in less than 10 years, run by and operated by slaves. Okay, I'm gonna skip down. We're gonna keep going. Um, I think I might just show this to y'all, just because this might get a little confusing just throwing the numbers at y'all. I know it will for me anyway. All right. It says Isaac Franklin himself. That's the guy who initially bought it and started building it up. Died at Angola, April 27, 1846, and has over 8,000 acres in West Feliciana were valued. Oh, Salaki. It got up to 18,000 acres. I think it got up to past that, but we'll get it. But at the time, it was 8,000 acres, and it was valued at almost $500,000. Now, this is in 1846. We'll use the same term. So at $35, which is the current value, right? You're talking about $17.5 million is what this place was worth in today's money when he died. Built up on the backs of our ancestors, of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is one example that we're able to walk down, which is why I wanted you all to get it and see it, because this happened over and over and over all across this country. All right, we're going to keep skipping down. Right now, I'm just covering the value that was increased on this property. It says on June 26, 1867, Adelia, which was the widow who inherited all of the property, she got with a natural physician who had a cousin who was in the Confederate. He was a Confederate general, right? So you see what type of what side they were on. All right. Says on December 23rd, 1880, they then sold the property, which totaled 10,000 acres for $100,000, right? So this is 1880. They sell the property for $100,000. So let's see how much a dollar was worth in 1880. About $30. So that's $3 million they sold the property for. All right, $3 million. So the value came down some, but they still reaped all the benefits because again, they were nowhere near into that property for that amount of money. All right, we're gonna keep going. Now, so Samuel L. James was a civil engineer who in 1869 formed The firm, the James Buckner and Company, levy contractors, which received a 5-year lease from the state to manage the prison system in Louisiana. This is one of the first times where it's clear, it's absolutely clear that um, that slavery continued past the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, which happened a few years before. All right. So he has a contract now to manage um, prisons in Louisiana. It says the lease gave the company authority to manage the main prison in Baton Rouge, also known as the Walls, as well as to lease out convicts to work on private plantations and public works projects. In 1870, the lease was extended from 5 to 21 years, during which time he reportedly maintained the most cynical, profit oriented, and brutal prison regime in Louisiana history. This is the same place that these young brothers were just sent to, that these children were sent to. They were sent essentially to the death row piece of this prison that had the history, that had the most brutal history in Louisiana. That approximately 3,000 prisoners died under the James lease between 1870 and 1901. Says he died of an aneurysm, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and left behind a fortune of over $2 million, although the property was heavily mortgaged. No sweat, property's mortgaged, that's fine. Let's see how much $2 million would be worth today in 1890 standards. So in 18, nope, in 1890, a dollar was worth about $34. Now this is $2 million, right? That is $68 million. Like this prop that his fortune was then worth. It says although the property was heavily mortgaged. Sure, sure. Let's say it was heavily mortgaged. At $68 million, you got a whole lot left, no matter how many mortgages you got on it. Now, on March 27th, 1901, the Board of Central Louisiana State Penitentiary purchased Angola and the other plantations around it, which was basically just one big plantation at this point, totaling approximately 8,000 acres from the estate of Samuel L. James for $25 per acre. Now that's about $200,000. Am I doing that right? Yes, that's about $200,000 in 1901. But again, you multiply that by 35, which is essentially what it's worth now. So even then, they sold it for $7 million. And in transactions like this, that's typically net. So where these things went from small dollars, they built it up on the backs of our ancestors, housed initially housed our ancestors, enslaved our ancestors, then imprisoned our ancestors, and then all of that value that they built up, they sell it to the state, walk away, $7 million. And people wonder why this country is what it is. People wonder why America became a superpower, because it absolutely benefited from the enslavement of the 12 tribes of Israel. You don't build this kind of wealth unless you have absolute chattel slavery. Unless you have absolute chattel slavery. Now, this particular article was kind of meant to be just a history, right? Um, and so I want to read some of the history, y'all, and then get back to a comment that was made. All right. It says in the middle 1920s, the prison was virtually self-supporting. Over 300 head of cattle, 387 mules, 200 horses, and 20,000 fowl were kept. Of the 17 or $18,000 acres under cultivation, 6,000 were in pasture, and 8,000 were planted in sugar. Now, this is a completely industrialistic compound, and it's a prison. Back in the 1920s. A lot of times, see, we think this stuff is new. We think the prison industrial complex is something new. We think this is something new where brothers go to jail and sisters, get locked up and then they get rented out or they're made to work for pennies. We think this is something new. It's not. It's something that continued from the time the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect. It has continued from now or from then up until now. All right. Says in circa 1935, the penitentiary housed 746 white men, 14 white women, 1,415 black men, and 65 black women. For the record, that's about 2 to 1. Even then, in 1935, they were locking us up at a rate twice as much as their own people. Why? So they could be part of this big business. So they could get all of the benefits of this slave labor. Um, Big business. Here's another example. So in 1950, Louisiana license plates were made. All 1950 Louisiana license plates were made at Angola, where a where a dairy and dehydration plant also operated. In 1961, the prisoner's budget was drastically reduced, and Angola fell in serious decline. It became known as the bloodiest prison in the South due to the number of inmate assaults. This is where they sent these children. This is the same facility. And somebody's gonna say that was a long time ago. I'm gonna show you that it wasn't. All right. Now, here's where the article is just. I'm gonna show you how wrong this is. It says Angola has since been accredited by the American Correctional Association, and in July of 1999, all federal court supervision of the facility was terminated. Now, what that means is, at some point, they were under the direct supervision of the federal government. They only do that. We talked about a few classes ago where, is it Milwaukee? I think it's the Milwaukee Police Department is now under the supervision of the federal government, which is the same police department where Derek Chauvin, who killed, who unalived George Floyd, was working. They found so much rampant racism there that the federal government took it over. This is the same thing that happened in Angola. This is the same thing that happened at the largest maximum security prison in Louisiana. And they just got out of that in 1999. It's not that long ago. That's when they got accreditation and the government said, okay, y'all good. I'm going to show y'all some more statistics. All right. So as part of the statewide network of institutions operated by the Louisiana Department of Public Safety, Angola remains the only maximum security prison in the state. It houses approximately 5,100 inmates and employs about 2,000 correctional officers. It still continues to function, though. It says 38 types of vegetables are grown by the inmate population and supply the needs of Angola and other correctional facilities in Louisiana, as well as the sale on the public market. They produce so much food, as far as vegetables is concerned, they're able to supply all the needs of the 5,100 uh, um, inmates, other correctional facilities, and they're able to sell food on the open market. There's almost 3,000 head of cattle are also maintained. The primary cash crop is corn and soybeans. The industrial compound of the main prison includes a license plate plant, silk screen shop, metal shop, and a mattress and broom and mop factory. This is the prison. This is the prison. And the last comment it says here, it says, today Angola is considered one of the safest and securest maximum security prisons in the United States. Now that is absolute nonsense. That's how we got that. And I'm going to show y'all why. All right. That was, let me see when this was written. I believe this was written in 2007. All the history that I just read. Yes, that was written in 2007 and it was done by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. All right. Now, this is an article written in 2021. Let me share this with y'all. It's probably hard to see, but that's all right. I'm going to read it to y'all. It says Louisiana State Penitentiary, nicknamed the Alcatraz of the South, is the largest maximum security prison in the country. That's what this place is that they sent these young men. That's where they sent these young men. The death row part of the largest maximum security prison in the country. So 6,300 men, 80% of whom are black, are held there. 80%. Before the Civil War, the prison property was known as Angola Plantations and was owned by Isaac Franklin, who at the time owned the largest slave trading firm, Franklin and Armfield, in the United States. He owned the largest slave trading slave trading firm in the United States. The prison's ground occupied a 28 square mile area. To put it in perspective, the prison the prison property covers an area larger than Manhattan. It says Angola's origins as a prison date back to 1880. Then the state awarded the lease of Louisiana State Penitentiary and all of its convicts to a former Confederate Army officer, Samuel L. James. These are things that other article did not go into with as much detail. James purchased several plantations across Louisiana. In addition to the Angola plantation, inmates were housed in the old slave quarters and worked on his plantation. The majority of black inmates, however, were subleased to landowners to replace their emancipated slaves. That was the purpose. It's like that was the purpose. Again, this is by design. The purpose from this former Confederate officer was to take over and then lease back these inmates to former slave owners. Because they were licensed, it's like they were leased to businesses to build levees, dig railroad tunnels, build roads, reclaim lowlands, and harvest crops. White inmates, seen as more intellectual, were given clerk and craftsman work. So they were not given the slave work. It was mainly us. And this says blacks, but I'm sure there was our Latino brothers in there too. All right. Um, Because under a private prison system, profit was the main concern. Humane treatment of prisoners and accountability to the state of Louisiana were ignored. In many instances, inmates suffered worse abuse under the convict lease arrangements than under the now abolished slavery system. That's how brutal this was. In many instances, they suffered worse than they did when they were actual slaves, government legalized slaves. Now that they are slaves by proxy because of the prison system, they are suffering worse fates in many cases. Because as a result, a constitutional ban of convict leasing was successfully adopted in 1898. Okay, you almost want to clap, right? Well, let's see the next sentence. It says the state of Louisiana purchased the prison camp from the James family in 1900 and assumed operation control in 1909. Thus began the state control of Angola prison. Much of the abuse and mismanagement, however, continued. Presently, Angola has numerous enterprises. They include, and this goes back to what we were reading before. This is a business. Angola has numerous enterprises. They include a licensed tag plant, printing services, mattress factory, and inmates cultivate, harvest, and process a variety of crops, making the facility self-supporting. Each year, the prison produces 4 million pounds of vegetable crops, including cabbage, corn, cotton, strawberries, okra, onions, peppers, soybeans, squash, tomatoes, and wheat. The facility also has approximately 2,000 head of cattle. That's up from before, and some of the herd is sold at local markets for beef. Inmates also breed and train horses used in Angola for field work. The prison is known for its professional rodeo. So where we going? And I know. Let me see who's still here. Let me see who's still here. Let me see who's still here. Oh no. Oh no. And I'm dating myself. Who's familiar with Stir Crazy, the movie? Who's familiar with Stir Crazy with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder? You know what? For the sake of time, don't worry about it. If you're not familiar with it, go check it out. But if you are familiar with it, you know that a lot of it is built around this prison rodeo. That's how they figure out how they're going to escape. They go to a prison rodeo. Well, check this out. It says the prison is known for its professional rodeo, which is held on week. It's like it's held one weekend every April and every Sunday in October. Inmates are allowed to participate in events. The Angola prison rodeo is open to the general public and attracts about 10,000 spectators annually. There you go. Officer Yagdar. Exactly. Exactly. He said he was just thinking about that. Exactly. This is big business. This is absolute big business. This is the perfect example of why this school to prison pipeline is not an accident. This is purposeful. It's absolutely by design. It's absolutely what the oppressor decided to do. Um, what time we got? We almost at time. Let me see. This is the last little bit. It says at one time, 68% of Angola's inmate population were serving life sentences. Consequently, a large proportion of the prison population consists of elderly inmates. In 2015, a class action lawsuit was filed stating that inadequate inmate medical care is a violation of the Eighth Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. According to the lawsuit, um, the Louisiana Department of Corrections neglected the serious medical needs of people incarcerated there. The lawsuit further claims that Angola is violating the Americans with Disability Acts at the Rehabilitation Act by not addressing the mobility issues of inmates who are physically unable to access parts of the prison. As of this writing, which was 2021, the two parties have not reached an agreement, which means it's still just out there. The rest of this, yeah, it's just reference stuff. Let me see, did that, and we could go on. We could go on because these things are still absolutely in place. They are. It's still an absolute hellhole. It's still somewhere where our people are absolutely destroyed and clearly being used as slave labor. We need to understand that there are so many um, aspects that this oppressor, so many mechanisms that this oppressor has put in place to make sure that we will continue to be oppressed always, as the scriptures say. We need to understand that the way we get out from under this is to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Salaki is to get inside this body, to come learn from the priests and prophets of the Lord, to get underneath the commanding general Yohana, who the Lord set up to be a leader for so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That is how we prevent the school to prison pipeline. That's how we make sure that there are no single parent households. We didn't even get into some of the laws about how I don't think we do. When you have sex with a woman, that is your woman. You do not get to put her away just to go find another. Sister, if you have sex with a man, that is the last man you will ever have sex with. And under the law, statutes, and commandments, he will never leave you and you are not allowed to leave him. Under that type of structure, we don't have a concern about a single parent household. Following these laws, statutes, and commandments as we're learning them, then as a people, we will understand this. And then we will have strong men. Then we can be wise as men. Then we can protect and provide for our homes the way the Most High intended. And that will be the first step into making sure that this school to prison pipeline, which is operating so efficiently, will then stop. All right. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'll go ahead and ask them. And if not, I'm going to get to these security announcements. Y'all let me know. Not where I want to go. That isn't either. So, all right. All right, we're going to go ahead with the announcements, security announcements. We had an ISUPK started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander John Yohana. Rule for new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission to marry from the head. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find it in Numbers 18 and 21 and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Most High gives you. You give it to the Treasury Department. You can also go to ISUPK.com and go directly to PayPal there. Obviously, you'll get your records once you submit your tithes. All right. Priest Fund is a free will offering for priests. It's not mandatory whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations and holy days this Friday is the 15th, It is the memorial blowing of trumpets that will be in at the school in Newport News / Hampton. Um, Go ahead and get in contact with the school to get information on um, exactly where it is. And I believe our time to report there is 6 o'clock. So if you plan on being in attendance, make sure you have the address and everything. Just get in contact with the school and you'll get that information. All right. And lastly, if anyone wants to be a trooper, any brother wants to be a trooper in the school, you need to start wearing all black. That's black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and war scarf. Get in contact with Officer Yaraj. So like the Officer Yaraj Shamath or Captain Nathan like Nashad, let them know if that's what you would like to do. Um, and that will be it. And if there are no other questions or any questions, Salaki, I'm going to say Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahweh to the brothers, Yahweh Shema Alathan by Shem Yahweh Shah to the sisters. Shalom, Israel.